The Steelers haven't won a playoff game in over the decade, and you always hear how the standard is the standard, but yet, ever since Mike Tomlin's last Super Bowl appearance, when they lost to the Green Bay Packers, the standard for the Steelers has gone down year after year to the point when this used to be a franchise that expected to compete for a Super Bowl every single season, and anything short of that was a disappointment, to now being celebratory of making it to the playoffs and being just happy to be there, getting their ass kicked in the first round, and getting the first class ticket to Cancun, which has plenty of Steelers fans really frustrated and upset because they want the standard to go back what it used to be, being a championship team, being in that Super Bowl or bust conversation. And that's why the cries for Mike Tomlin to get fired have never been louder. But here's the thing. Mike Tomlin is never going to get fired. And even if the Steelers were to pull the trigger on Mike Tomlin and fire him, they will be in an even worse situation than what they are right now, because everybody that wants Mike Tomlin fired always wants to sell you the dream that the grass is greener on the other side. Oh, the Steelers win 9-10 games every year. They make it to the first round, and they're an easy exit. They can do better. How do you know the Steelers can do better? Because for as many as you guys who believe that the Steelers can do better, you overlook that the Steelers can do a lot worse than the coach that won't bottom out. Mike Tomlin, you know with him that you're going to have a guaranteed winning season no matter who you have at quarterback. You're guaranteed to win 9-10 games with him. Anybody else, there's a higher probability that the Steelers miss on their Mike Tomlin replacement and they had to rebuild. Oh, well, rebuilding doesn't sound that bad. Yeah, it doesn't sound bad for the Steelers to rebuild, be bad, get a few high draft picks for 2 to 3 years, and they end up landing some franchise cornerstones. But what if the Steelers are stuck rebuilding forever, like how the Jaguars, the Browns, and the Jets have been for over the last decade? You see, as easy as it is to believe that the Steelers could find a replacement for Mike Tomlin that can get them further in the playoffs, they can just as easily, if not more easily, find a replacement that is worse than Mike Tomlin, and the Steelers end up being what the Cleveland Browns currently are right now, the biggest laughingstock in the NFL. You see, the Steelers have only had 3 head coaches in over the last 55 years. We've had more popes than the Steelers have had head coaches. That shows you that this franchise is all about stability. And the main reason why the Steelers have been a consistent model for winning in the National Football League is because of Mike Tomlin. And what folks overlook about Mike Tomlin, because they pay too much attention to his flaws, is that Mike Tomlin has been a Band-Aid for a lot of cracks in the Steelers front office. Kevin Colbert is one of the best general managers of the 2000s and 2010s, but his last few draft classes were less to be desired. And this is also the same organization that forced Mike Tomlin to draft Kenny Pickett, that forced Mike Tomlin to hire Matt Canada. So if it wasn't for Mike Tomlin being the great coach that he was, being able to turn shit into gold, still making a bad situation into a good situation, the Steelers could easily find themselves on the bottom of the totem pole in the NFL. This front office has looked as good as what they have because of Mike Tomlin. You can say that the Steelers do a really good job of drafting. They make decent free agency signings, but the Steelers have had more misses than they've had hits the last few years. And drafting Kenny Pickett, the fact that Mike Tomlin was able to get to the playoffs, having to start him along with Mitchell Trubisky and Mason Rudolph, is a testament to how good of a coach he is, because Mike Tomlin is able to win with quarterbacks that would have gotten any other head coach fired. He has the best record in the National Football League all time with backup quarterbacks. So imagine what Mike Tomlin could do if he gets a franchise-changing quarterback in next year's draft, like a Lenore Sellers or a Garrett Nussmeier. And a conference that's home to aliens at quarterback, Will Howard isn't going to be good enough to get the Steelers back to the standard that fans have grown accustomed to during the 2000s and the early 2010s. All the Steelers would be doing is giving Mike Tomlin a plastic knife and a gunfight going into the playoffs. You can say, well, Mike Tomlin had Big Ben and didn't do too much in the telling of his career. You're right. But you're also disingenuous to put all of the Steelers' shortcomings in the playoffs all on Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin wasn't the guy who had 4 or 5 turnovers in the first quarter of that wild card round loss to the Cleveland Browns in 2020. Mike Tomlin wasn't the guy who was turning the football over like he was Santa's helper when the Steelers got upset by the Jacksonville Jaguars coming off a bye week. You see, there's a lot of context that gets left out for the folks who scream that the Steelers got to fire Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin was able to get a Hall of Fame career out of Antonio Brown, who hasn't been able to stick anywhere else that he went for long, and also finds himself in a legal situation with a warrant out for his arrest. Mike Tomlin is the epitome of stability. And the fact that people want him gone because it's this belief that the Steelers can do better is rooted in this dream that the Steelers can do better even though they have a higher chance of doing a lot worse than Mike Tomlin. And what if the wishes that many Steelers fans have do come true of Mike Tomlin getting fired and they end up hiring the next Urban Meyer or the next Bill O'Brien? Would you want Mike Tomlin back? Would you recant those wishes that you have? Because the grass isn't always greener on the other side. That's the old saying goes. I'm not saying that the Steelers need to keep tolerating mediocrity out of Mike Tomlin, but at the same time, though, it's pretty freaking hard to find a head coach that will always have you in the playoffs. And maybe you feel like it's worth rolling the dice and taking the risk. But you know what they say, certain risks that you take, you're not able to bounce back from if they don't pan out. And if the Steelers fire Mike Tomlin and they are unable to find a suitable replacement for him that's able to elevate the Steelers back into the Super Bowl picture, they risk becoming what the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns are right now.